Daddy Squared. Gay Dad Saved the World.
A daily dose of gay dads on the front lines of the global pandemic.
With Alex McGann and Jan Dick.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Daddy Squared, Gay Dad Save the World.
As a reminder, we are not the gay dads that save the world, but the people we interview are.
And speaking of people we interviewed, this guy that we interviewed today,
yes.
I basically chased him throughout the whole season. for a month now. I've been nagging.
He played hard to get.
And I wanted it so much because he's a funeral home manager. And
Yes.
I think that these types of workers are so in the shadows. Like, people don't like to talk about it
Yep.
and don't like to think about these
But
things.
we do.
But this it's so essential, and especially with this news that we hear about funerals and how difficult it is right now, and how a loved one passed away and we are not able to even be with them in the funeral and say goodbye properly. So I wanted to reach out to a funeral home manager and to see how he's going.
But before we talk about death,
Let's talk about Eurovision. So I know you guys Americans don't really know anything about Eurovision. Some of you do.
which is,
as a
by the
guest.
way, just as an American, which is your loss, because I didn't know very much about Eurovision before I met Jan, who indoctrinated me into it. And I'll tell you something, once you're there, it's like a cult. It's amazing. Tell us a little bit about it, won't you?
Basically, Eurovision is the Olympics of music in Europe and Australia. And it's broadcasted live for millions and millions of people so it's an annual event.
Probably hundreds of millions of people, I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
probably. And it's basically everywhere besides the US.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's amazing. So each country submits a performer and a song. Those songs get performed live during the Eurovision Song Contest finals. And there's voting via, internet or what have you, to figure out which country wins. Whichever country wins then hosts Eurovision the following year. So
this is something that's been going on for 60-some years.
Yeah.
And so this year it was canceled for the first time in history. The whole idea of the Eurovision was came about in right after World War II. They want to make They wanted to make something that is bring people together after the separation that the war has caused.
And it was also an element of propaganda to show the Eastern Bloc, the Soviet bloc, about how much fun Western Europe was having.
Then the Eastern Europe joined. Never mind. We'll save you the history. The thing is that it was canceled this year.
Yeah.
And even though countries have already submitted songs and artists and performers, they've decided to, first of all, there was a thought to make it remotely, but then one of the rules of the Eurovision is that every song gets the same equal platform to perform on. So they couldn't provide that long distance. Everything has to be performed on one stage, on the same stage with the same equipment. So they decided to cancel the contest, and instead they've created a 2-hour show where they basically checked in with all of the countries that participating in the Eurovision Song Contest. And I'm saying that, and I have the shivers because
It's
it was so
It's quite
powerful.
We'll put a link for it on Daddy Squared.
Yes, and it was so powerful to see all of the countries of the world empty. Like they showed up, they checked in with Croatia and Malta and
Rome
UK
and Tel Aviv and
everything.
Yeah.
And the streets are empty and people are everywhere. It's the same. And the whole message of this broadcast was we're all in this together. And I think they managed to do it very well. So if you have 2 hours spare,
You have 2 hours to spare.
check it out. And if you want to know more about Eurovision, let's talk because I'm happy to say.
Oh, he can tell you a lot about Eurovision.
We can
believe me.
have a Zoom call about.
For those of you who don't know, by the way, this is important. Who got those Americans especially, who got their start at Eurovision?
ABBA,
Yes.
and Celine Dion,
Yes. So, we can celebrate Eurovision.
and also Gina G.
We can celebrate Eurovision for ABBA, and we can bemoan Eurovision for Celine Dion.
Bemoan Dion.
Bemoan Dion. That's very good. All right, let's go to our interview.
Okay, Joey Martin, we're calling Indiana today. Like I said, he's a funeral home manager. We try to keep it light before this interview, but listen, this is... Okay,
This was a great interview.
This is one of the best interviews of the season.
is Joey.
Hi, Joey. It's Alex and Jan. How you doing?
How are you?
Doing good. How are you doing?
We're good.
Thank you for doing this with us. What we would love to ask you to do, Joey, is tell us a little bit about what your work is in general and how you feel like it's changed during the pandemic.
Well, I am currently a licensed funeral director and embalmer, and also the manager of a funeral home, family owned and operated. And the COVID pandemic has really brought about a lot of changes in funeral service. It's really brought about changes with how families grieve and how they mourn and how they respect their deceased loved ones. Most often in this area, we do the traditional burials. That's changed quite a bit with the COVID pandemic. Most families have leaned towards cremation because there's not the ability to view their loved one, touch their loved one, as there was before the pandemic started.
Right.
So there really has been a lot of changes in the way the families grieve. And then, of course, as far as how we handle the families, that's not really changed much, but it has really brought about how we operate has changed quite a bit.
Sure. So I don't know what the regulations are there, but are you guys still having funeral services where the family come together?
We have just been granted. We are now in phase 2 of our reopening here in Indiana. And funeral services have now been upgraded to where we can have a maximum of 25 people in the building. Initially, that was 10 people, but we still have to maintain social distancing guidelines,
right?
Which in a smaller building is a little bit difficult, but we make it work. Right. And so we have to monitor that. But yes, families are now able to come together and have a little bit more friends and family able to come to this, whereas before it was 10 or less.
Right.
So we can see that easing up, and eventually we will get to that point where we're fully open. Don't know what the timeline is going to be on that, but I know that we will be glad when it is.
Sure.
When it has come to that.
I wanted to ask, so in these funeral services, I can imagine that there's a lot of always in your line of work, I guess there's a lot of delicate interaction. But what happens when two family members just decide that they must embrace and they just start doing it? Have you guys been in a position where you've had to say, please don't?
Luckily, we have not. However, we have had some families that, we set our chairs up in the chapel to where there's a 6 foot distance in between the chairs. I have had some families that have said, as soon as you exit the room, we're moving these chairs closer. Certainly, that's quite all right. I don't have to be present for that.
Right. So
you're more than welcome to do that. However, it has been difficult to say, I'm sorry, we need to maintain social distancing. For the most part, families have understood that. But on occasion, you will get a family that they just don't think that COVID really, these regulations or these rules or whatever you want to call them don't apply to them.
Right.
And whereas we look at it from the standpoint, we're doing what we've been asked to do for the safety of everybody, not just ourselves as employees, but for everybody.
Right.
that walks through the door. And so, we feel like we have a sense of obligation to the community to follow that.
Right.
And it has been a little difficult. Now, we've not stopped anybody from hugging,
Right.
But, because people are going to do what people do and what they see fit. And, it's not my I can't say for myself if I wouldn't have done the same thing.
Right.
You never know until you're in that situation.
Have you guys found yourselves to be how shall I put it, a technical support organization? Have you helped families with setting up, I don't know, Zoom funerals or at least remote video? Like a lot of old people have no idea what they're doing in that space.
Most of our families that we have served so far during this, I know of maybe 2 or 3 that have wanted to do what we call what everybody knows as live streaming.
Right.
Our firm does not. We're not set up for that. But most of them just would say, well, we'll just do like a Facebook Live video or something of that nature.
Got it.
But
okay.
Other than that, it's been quite all right.
Cool. Thank you. Well, okay. So now we got to switch gears quickly to the home.
Sure.
So tell us about your family? What you got?
Okay. So, of course, I live here in Columbus. I am engaged to a wonderful man whose name is Josh, and he works here at the funeral home with me, and he takes care of the office. We have 3 children. The 3 children are from my previous marriage, and they live with us full time. And I have a boy and 2. We have a boy and 2 girls. My oldest is Evan. He is 17, soon to be 18. And Janae is 16 going on 30. And Liliana is 10 going on 20.
Wow.
So my boy is great. My 2 girls keep me very humble.
I can only imagine. How far do you guys, how far is your work from your home?
We commute one way about 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. And so what are you doing to keep these kids busy? Obviously, the older ones are they're all doing remote school. Is that what's happening? Yes,
they're all doing e-learning, and they currently right now only have 2 weeks left. So they're really excited about that. They're, between the e-learning, which they've only got so many hours in the day that they can do it. Other than that, they try to stay busy with tasks that both dads give them. I can't say that it works all the time, but right now TikTok is the craze. So we get several TikTok videos throughout the day. So
do you participate?
We have not gotten that brave yet. Number one, I personally am not a dancer, so it would be very embarrassing for anybody to look at. And then my fiance, he's a little shy, so I'm sure eventually we will get there. But
right.
Usually it's if we do it, it's almost kind of like a video bomb type thing. Right. They'll be dancing, and then we'll walk into the picture and mess everything up. So,
right. Joey, can you give us a feeling for any kind of silver linings that you take away from what we've all been through and what you guys have been through recently?
I would have to say that I feel it has brought some people, not everybody, not the population and as a majority, but I think it has, brought us together. My immediate family in particular. I recently, my mother had emergency heart surgery last week, and because of the COVID restrictions, we were not allowed to be with her. Yeah. So it affected us quite greatly because when you're going through something like that, you expect to have your family there, cheering you on, holding your hand, telling you everything's going to be great, and we weren't able to do that. So there was a lot of stress there, but I think when we were able to hear her voice, it really kind of brought it back that it's all going to be okay. But I think it's brought some families closer together. I think the main silver lining in this is that people see that we are not immune to everything that comes our way. we get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life. And I think I personally don't stop and take time to think, about myself and about, and how do I protect myself? And, but I think a lot of people, I really think that they have seen that this was not a joke, that, this is a real thing, and that it can happen. And sadly, America has lost a lot of people, as well as other countries. Yeah. And, it's important that we just realize that we're not invisible. Right. And I think that a lot of people have seen that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm going to switch to my favorite question because it reflects on the way I've been living my life recently. And it is, can you confess to us about the worst thing that you have eaten over the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Oh my gosh.
That's right.
How can I list 3 or 4? Because that's probably what it really is.
Bring it to the worst level possible.
Oh my gosh. Oh, the worst possible thing that I've eaten would have to be an entire chess pie in one day.
What's a chess pie?
A chess pie is nothing but sugar. A chess pie is a mixture of cornmeal and sugar, and it makes a custard, and it makes this really crunchy film on a really crunchy layer on top of it when it bakes, and it's nothing but sugar. Oh my gosh.
Okay. We'll try that tonight.
Yeah, we're getting right on it. I'm going to Google that.
Probably one of the most sinful things you have ever eaten. Well, maybe not. But,
up with sin. Joey, listen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And, thank you for being essential during all of this.
Yes, you guys are most welcome, and thank you for bringing a light to what we do as funeral directors. We're truly, we're on the front lines just as much as most people are.
Yeah, definitely.
Although we're kind of in the shadows too. So thank you for allowing me to participate.
Sure. Thank you, Joey. Take care.
Take care.
Yes, you too.
Bye-bye. Bye.
That is clear.